Hello, English 4 students, and welcome. We made it to 20 annotation day. Yes, the big chapter, the longest chapter in And Then There Were None. Chapter 9, the 20 annotation chapter. So 20 annotations is what you need to take over this chapter. Not the standard 10, but 20. And let's look into the chapter 9. All right, as I pull it up. So they came to that conclusion at the very end of chapter 8 that they were the only ones on the island. And so here in part 1, we have Philip Lombard, Dr. Armstrong, and Philip Lombard, Dr. Armstrong, and William Henry Bloor all together, and they're all arguing. And in fact, Bloor is kind of the main dragger of the argument because it's kind of funny considering he's supposed to be a detective, but he's not really good at detecting. And so he accuses both Lombard and Dr. Armstrong of being the killer. And of course, that causes all three of them to kind of get into a hoopla and yelling back and forth. And so that's what all this first 5 pages are. It's just them three yelling amongst each other. Then there's the gong for lunch, and everybody leaves for lunch. Everybody starts to show up for lunch right here, and then they realize, hey, General MacArthur is not here. And Vera said, oh, General MacArthur is sitting down by the sea. I don't expect he would hear the gong there anyway. He was a little vague today. And so Dr. Armstrong volunteers to go and get General MacArthur. And while they're sitting there, all of a sudden, the storm starts to come in, and they hear the feet of someone running along the terrace. And in that minute, they knew. Without being told, they knew. Dr. Armstrong appeared. His breath was coming fast. He said, General MacArthur, dead! With a word burst out from Vera explosively. Armstrong said, yes, he's dead. And there was a pause, a long pause. 7 people looked at each other and could find no words to say. Moment of silence for General MacArthur. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Then we move on here to section 4, where they go inside and Vera discovers, and Rogers discovers, you're quite right, Rogers. Look for yourself. There are only 7 little China figures left. Bom, bom, bom. Anyway, they bring General MacArthur back into the house, and that's when Justice Wargrave begins to start assessing this situation. In fact, he says, hey, I saw the 3 of y'all idiots running all over the island. I didn't even have to run all over the island because I already knew that Mr. Owens is one of us. Bam, bam, bam. Basically, it's the judge dunking on them, being like, y'all so dumb. Why you gotta run all over the island? You can't see this? Y'all should have been able to see it, dummies. All right. Section 6, we start off with Vera going, oh, no, and freaking out, and they calm her down. And now they're going to go through and see if they could eliminate anybody from not being the killer. Dr. Armstrong's the first one who says it, and he kind of is like, there's no way I can be the killer. I'm a well-known professional man. The mere idea, and they basically trying to say, I'm rich. There's no way I could be the killer. And General MacArthur, or not General MacArthur, Mr. Wargrave was like, hey, that doesn't mean anything, man. Like, I'm well known too, and I could also be the killer. So you run away with that. Then someone's like, well, I suppose we could leave the ladies out of this. And then they're like, are you asserting that women aren't subject to homicidal mania? And they're like, of course not. But all the same, it seems possible. So the women could even be in on it. Then last but not least, they tried to say, well, what about Rogers? What about Mr. Rogers? And they're like, nope, he could also possibly be the killer. Then they move on and they start working their way through Anthony Marston, Mrs. Rogers, and finally General MacArthur. So basically they say, here's how everybody could have possibly killed Anthony Marston. Here's how everybody could have possibly killed Mrs. Rogers. And now here's how everybody could have possibly killed General MacArthur. And we end it with basically saying, the judge saying this. We have inquired into the circumstances of these 3 deaths to the best of our abilities, whilst probability in some cases is against certain people being implicit. Yet we cannot say definitely that any one person can be considered as cleared of all complicity. I reiterate my positive belief that of the 7 persons assembled in this room, one of them is a dangerous and probably insane criminal. There is no evidence before us that as to that person is. We all can do at the present juncture is to consider what measures we can take for communicating with the mainland for help. And in the event of being delayed, as it is only too possible given the state of the weather, what measures we must adopt to ensure our safety. I would ask all of you to consider this carefully and give me any suggestions that may occur to you. In the meantime, I warn everybody to be upon his or her guard. So far, the murderer has had an easy task since his victims have been unsuspicious. From now on, it is our task to suspect each and every one amongst us. Forewarned is forearmed. Take no risk and be alert to danger. That is all. And then Philip Lombard murmured underneath his breath, "It's now adjourned." So there we go. That's chapter 9. 20 annotations. There is a lot to work with, especially in the latter half where they're kind of explaining how each person could possibly be the killer, kind of laying out the possible evidence that's in front of them. But General MacArthur dies, the storm starts, and they start to figure out who of the 7 could be the murderer. All right, that's all I have for you today. Remember, 20 annotations, and I will see you around later. Remember, if you have any questions, please email me, pdavidson@portugal.k12.mo.us. Bye-bye.